Hi everyone, and welcome to our course, Unveiling the Underpinnings of Genocide, or simply Underpinnings. This opening video lecture introduces the course aim, structure, and requirements, as well as a more general comment as to how this course fits into the curriculum. Let's start with the course aim, which is driven by an etiological question. What causes genocide? Etiology is the study of causation. Now, there are two approaches to an etiology of genocide. The first approach, which is adopted here in our course, is called nomothetic. This seeks to produce a more generalizable rather than a particularistic sort of knowledge. In its most extreme sense, the nomothetic approach looks for universal laws, or at least law-like regularities or patterns in human affairs. Now, we're not going that far here in Underpinnings. Rather, our more modest goal is to search for the general conditions in which genocides are likely to occur. The complementary approach, which is not taken here, is called idiographic. This seeks to produce a more particularistic rather than a general sort of knowledge. Most historians work from this perspective, as it aligns with the principle of historicism, which is that historical events must be studied contextually, on their own terms, rather than through present ways of thinking. We'll take up this perspective in the spring when I teach modern genocides, where we cover the various whens and wheres of genocide. So these are sibling courses. They're both etiological, but from different perspectives. As far as this course is concerned, our aim is to uncover the hidden roots or origins of genocide, a so-called odious scourge of humanity. Elie Wiesel famously said that Auschwitz cannot be explained, and that the Holocaust is the ultimate mystery. Hopefully, we'll never actually know the horrors of genocide, but if we take seriously the dictum, never again, then we must try to understand. Like a mechanic works on a car, or a doctor with a patient, or as a meteorologist studies atmospheric conditions, or to perhaps even use a closer analogy, like a fire watcher looking out for wildfires. We must diagnose the underlying social conditions that make genocide possible, and identify the general processes and dynamics that increase its likelihood. The roots of genocide may be hidden or obscured, but as we'll see, they are in fact all too ordinary and normal, even banal. Moving on, the course structure covers 8 different topics pertaining to the general causes or conditions of genocide. Each topic is complemented by a core discipline or research program. This table is like an intellectual map of the field that we can use to navigate across multiple bodies of literature. To use another metaphor, think of this list like a cafeteria menu with multiple, complementary theoretical perspectives from which you can pick and choose in order to develop your own perspective on what causes genocide. By no means are these options mutually exclusive. As we'll see, many of these ideas build on one another. Nor is this list exhaustive. There are a number of other relevant disciplines, such as ethics, demographics, economics, ecology, etc., all with their own complementary topics. So this is only a starting point, an initial roadmap, if you will. Now, as far as the course readings are concerned, I won't repeat myself with what's already in the syllabus. I'll just reiterate 3 things. First, we only have one required textbook, although we're only reading a few selections from it. So why did I require it? This edited volume is so up-to-date and impressive, as well as relatively affordable, that it should be on any genocide scholar's bookshelf. So even though we're not reading the whole thing, you should definitely read the other chapters at some point in your career. 2. I trust each and every one of you, as students, to determine your own weekly reading load. I don't expect you to read everything in our compressed 8-week time frame. Out of the many different options I provide each week, you get to pick and choose what you want to read. Finally, for those of you who've taken my doctoral writing and research methods seminar, you've seen parts of this slide before in relation to what I call digesting the literature. I encourage you all to take this metaphor to heart. Remember, not every serving has to be a feast, and you don't have to approach all readings the same way. To go back to my cafeteria metaphor from the previous slide, if this list of weekly topics is like a menu, then you're just trying to get a broad sampling of what's out there in terms of the literature. Alright, I have a lot less to say about the course requirements, starting with the weekly discussion forum. Again, all of this is covered in the syllabus, but let me walk through the multiple parts here. First, there's your weekly opening posting. Each week, I provide a list of learning objectives that can be used as prompts for writing a response of about 500 to 1,000 or more words. Second is participation. At a minimum, you must respond at least twice on a discussion thread other than your own. I'm looking for substantive engagement, not pro forma responses. Finally, you have a leadership post for 1 week of the semester. So after looking at the list of weekly topics, you need to send me your top 3 preferences, and I'll assign you a week. For that 1 week, you'll substitute your normal opening post with something much longer that covers most of the assigned readings and poses questions for discussion. Now, some comments about the annotated bibliography assignment. You see here a more advanced example of an annotated bibliography. Basically, it's a bibliographic citation followed by an annotation, or a more or less brief note. In terms of the annotations, I don't expect anything this long, as far as the bare minimum requirements are concerned. But this exercise has practical value in intellectually mapping out the field. I also need some form of assessment as to whether you are actually doing the bare minimum required readings. As noted, you have enormous discretion in determining your weekly reading load. As such, the annotated bibliography assignment is limited. So let me explain. The assignment is broken into 2 parts. The first part covers weeks 1 through 4, from which you select at least 14 readings, and the second part covers weeks 5 through 8, from which you select another 14 readings. And that's it. Remember, the annotations don't have to be this long. 1 or 2 sentences will suffice. Finally, there's the historiographical essay. Now, this picture has no literal meaning, it just looks cool. More relevant is this quote below. Study the historian before you begin to study the facts. As I discussed in my Week 4 video lecture in the Doctoral Writing and Research Seminar, linked in the description box below, historiography is basically the history of history. So that means that I want you to write an intellectual history or genealogy of your topic. How have historians and other scholars dealt with your topic over time? What have been the major debates or issues in the literature? What are the dominant assumptions or prevailing interpretations? What issues have been marginalized and ignored? Now, this is important. Don't just summarize the text. This isn't a glorified annotated bibliography where you simply describe one reading after another. Rather, you should be integrating your analysis of multiple readings as they relate to each other. This should be presented in the form of a cohesive narrative that ties everything together. Like any essay, you're telling a story from start to finish. To help get started, the syllabus outlines 4 narrative strategies for writing a historiographical essay. Although I should say that you are by no means limited to what you see here, and that these strategies can be used in conjunction with one another. It really just depends on what sort of questions you can ask of the literature. For example, how have the dominant and/or marginalized interpretations of your topic changed over time? Are there competing research programs or paradigms that are at odds with one another? Or can different research programs supplement each other? Check out the syllabus for more direction, and reach out to me with any questions, concerns, or ideas. Okay, and that's it for the introduction. I'll repeat these reminders in my Week 1 video lecture, which you should watch next. Anyways, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.